Hey guys, welcome back to more political chatter. Today we will be talking about the 2026 midterm elections, especially the 2026 Senate elections, and my updated forecast in those Senate races, each individual race, where I think the race stands, races to watch, toss up seats, which party is making up ground, whatever, in each of these races. And this will be my updated Senate projection for September. So, with that being said, remember after the 2024 Senate races, the Republicans took the majority in the Senate, 53 seats to Democrats' 47. Remember in 2022, Democrats had majority, 51 to 49, but in 2024, Republicans flipped 4 seats to get to 53: Montana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. So, looking ahead to 2026, Democrats need 51 seats for majority, so they will need to flip 4 seats for majority. That is the magic number for Democrats, 4 seats. But remember, if it ends up 50-50, if Democrats flip 3 seats to make it 50-50, that's still a majority for the Republicans technically. Because in the case of a tie, the vice president, in this case J.D. Vance, cast the tie breaking vote, giving Republicans leverage when a tie occurs. So, with that all said, Democrats will need to flip 4 seats, and let's get started with this projection. So, first things first, safe Republican states. We always start with the incumbent party in the White House. The Republicans, they have quite a few. They've got South Dakota, they've got Wyoming, they've got Steve Daines in Montana, they've got Jim Risch in Idaho, they've got Roger Marshall in Kansas. Or honestly, that one might not be safe actually. Trump won it by a comfortable margin, obviously, 16 points. But in these states that went to Trump by 15, 16, 17, 18, even 18 points, I'm thinking that Democrats are going to outperform their 2024 result by at least 5 points across the board. I mean, honestly. So in a Trump plus 16 state, if Democrats just do a few points better in 2026 than they did in 2024, reduce that margin down to 14, maybe 13, maybe even 12 points in a deep red state like Kansas, that makes it a likely state. A likely state is a 5 to 15% margin. So no Nebraska, no Kansas. Oklahoma is a safe state, however. Louisiana could be interesting if John Bell Edwards, the former governor, runs, but as of now, it's safe. Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. It is Daniel Cameron or Andy Barr in Kentucky. That's an open seat there. Mitch McConnell's retiring, and then Shelley Moore Capito in West Virginia. As for the Democrats, they have quite a few safe states of their own. First of all, Oregon. Harris won Oregon by 14 points, but what's his name? Is it Jeff Murray? I think the other Oregon senator, I can't remember his name, is up, and he should win by over 15 points easily. With as we're seeing in special elections, Democrats are going to turn out, and Republicans are not going to turn out. The Democratic vote is going to be exaggerated for a midterm election, at least. And, if you're a Republican and you're not happy with how the way things are going, you feel that you're not getting what you voted for, as many are feeling right now, polling indicates, then you're not going to turn out for your party, especially in a midterm election, let alone a presidential election. You might not vote Democrat, but you're certainly not going to turn out for the Republicans. So, with that being said, Democrats again are going to outperform at least a little in pretty much every race compared to 2024. So, Oregon, I have safe. Illinois, I have safe. And even Minnesota, I have safe. Because Minnesota, Harris only won it by 4 points. But on that same ballot in the Senate race in 2024, Klobuchar won by a safe margin. And Klobuchar is a strong candidate, but Royce White, the cause for a margin like this is because of the Republican candidate Royce White. And what do you know? He was extremely weak. What do you know? Royce White is once again running again, and he's the only prominent name in the Republican primary so far. So we could only assume he's going to win the Democratic nomination, or the Republican nomination. Sorry. Democrats will sweep to an easy victory in Minnesota. Delaware, Chris Coons, Chris Coons. New Jersey, Cory Booker. This is controversial, I know. Harris only won it by 16. That would be a 10-point overperformance. Um, yeah, I guess that is a little exaggerated. Right now, I'm going to keep that one likely. You got Rhode Island, you got Ed Markey in Mass, and that will be it for safe Democratic states. Or, I would be willing to put Colorado at this point. Colorado voted for Harris by 11. It's a rapidly trending left state. I mean, Biden won it by almost 14 points. And you've got John Hickenlooper, who is a relatively strong candidate running for reelection, even though he's a moderate. He's one of the rare exceptions of a strong moderate candidate. And that is it for safe states across the board. So that leaves Republicans with 43 Senate seats, Democrats at 41. So Democrats made up a little ground, but they still have some more to catch up on. Um, and now let's go into likely states. So, first and foremost, South Carolina, as well as Kansas. These are deeply Republican states, but just based off the 2024 margin, I would not be comfortable putting it as safe. I think that Democrats will outperform Harris by just a few points, and that does put them in the likely characterization. Also, Florida, a rapidly trending right state. Trump won it by 13 in 2020. He won it by 3 in 2016. He won it by 1. He went from 1 to 3 to 13. And this is Florida is out of contention for Democrats in down ballot races too. The Senate race, the gubernatorial race, Republicans are going to win here across the board. You've got Ashley Moody, who took Rubio's seat, was appointed by DeSantis, will finish out a full term when reelected. Um, Let's see. For Republicans, I also have Iowa as of now. If you look at my forecast here to these likely states, Joni Ernst. Sorry, this should be Ashley Hinson now. Um, the incumbent Republican Joni Ernst is not running again. I have come to the conclusion that it won't matter too much, but if it does matter, it will help Republicans slightly just because of how unpopular Joni Ernst was. That incumbency was not an advantage, but it actually hurt her in a race like this. I have it at Republican plus 5.6. I think that this one could be really interesting if Nathan Sage is the nominee. I think Democrats have to test these, blue collar sort of hard scrabble working class candidates like Nathan Sage in Iowa or Graham Plattner in Maine. The list goes on. And he could make the race real interesting in Iowa. Now, because of partisanship, could he surmount a Trump plus 13 margin? I doubt it. I really do. But here we are. Iowa right now, I still have him making up 7 points. Likely Republican, 5 point margin. Now, moving on, I also have Idaho as a likely margin state. In my forecast, you could see I have John Husted winning by 5.1%. But remember, Trump won it by 11 points in 2024, so this would be a significant trend towards the left. But remember, Sherrod Brown is running again in this race, and he ran in 2024. He was, the incumbent in this race. He lost by 3.6. So while Harris lost the state by 11, he lost by 3.6. Significant overperformance. Point being, if the national trend is 5 points favorable, more favorable towards the Democrats than it was in 2024, if Sherrod Brown continues that overperformance, he wins the election. Point being, in 2024, if if the Democratic environment was 5 points more Democratic, Sherrod Brown would have won, given his overperformance. Even, Harris might not have won Ohio. She would not have won Ohio. She would have lost by 6 still. But Sherrod Brown, because of how he can overperform, still would have won. But will the national environment, be a 5 points more Democratic than it was in 2024? Probably not that. It could be, but probably not quite that far. Right now, I still have it at just over a 5 point margin, a 5.1% margin to be exact, and I have John Husted beating Sherrod Brown in Ohio. Moving on to likely Democratic states. New Mexico, this is Ben Ray Lujan. This should not be too tough for him. He won comfortably in 2020. Cory Booker, obviously, deep Democratic state. You've got Chris Pappas in New Hampshire, where polls are showing he is trouncing the very, moderate former Senator Scott Brown. You've got Mark Warner in Virginia. That should not come as too much of a surprise. And then you've got oh wait, I have to stay with my forecast here, um but then I have this might be a little different from what I have on the spreadsheet. But right now I am willing to put Maine likely Democrat. This is the first flip. This is a flip, and it's already likely Democrat, just to show you where Democrats are in the national environment. Now, Susan Collins won her last race by 8 points in 2020, 8.6%, on the same ballot where Joe Biden won the state of Maine by 9. All right, she outperformed the Republican ticket in Maine by 15 or no, by 17% in Maine. That is unheard of. But that was still when, she was able to do that whole moderate shtick. I think that's over. And I think in a presidential election where you had higher propensity voters, that actually helped more than hurt, even though you had lots of Biden voters. A lot of independent voters picked Biden for president and Susan Collins for Senate. But come 2024, come 2026, I think you're going to have an influx of Democratic voters who are turning out to oppose what they're seeing in Washington, what they're seeing from the White House and the Trump administration. They're turning out to vote Democrat down ballot. I mean, even these people who might think that, who might still, these lower information voters who might still think that Collins is truly a moderate at heart, even they, I feel like, are saying, no, let me vote Democratic down ballot to send a message to Washington that I'm against it. Even if I like Susan Collins personally, her as an individual, I will refuse to vote for her party. But most and foremost, or first and foremost, I mean, you've got Graham Plattner as probably the Democratic nominee in Maine. If he's the nominee, this is an easy win. Again, he is a blue collar, working class sort of candidate and a real normal person. And I think people understand that. Someone who's actually principled, he's not corrupt, he's not bought out, and he's a progressive, very fitting with Maine's politics, with Maine's voters' politics. He would destroy Susan Collins. On a good night, on a great night, like an amazing night for the Democrats in 2026, he wins by like 13 plus points. I mean, this one could be one where it's nowhere, absolutely nowhere close. Likely states, that is it. That is it for the Democrats. Every other state will be lean for the Democrats, but I do have one more likely Republican state. That is in Nebraska. It might be, confusing not to, not to see it even called before this, but remember, you have Dan Osborne running again in Nebraska. He ran in 2024. He's an independent local labor union leader endorsed by the Nebraska Democratic Party. He lost to Deb Fischer in 2024 by 7%, 6.7%, on the same ballot where Harris lost by 20. He overperformed Harris by 13 points. So, if the national, if the national, whatever, what am I even trying to say? I forget. Oh, if Harris had lost by 13 or 12.9 and Dan Osborne overperformed by 13, he would have won in 2024. So can the national, or can the Nebraska, the generic Nebraska ballot be at least Republican plus 12.9 or better for the Democrats? Probably not. I still think that Dan Osborne will lose, but we'll see how this race changes in the future. The following states will be lean or tilt. These are the ones that will decide control in the Senate. Democrats still need 5 seats. They need to win all 5. For Democrats to have a majority, they will need to win all 5. Republicans just need 1. They just need 1. So Democrats, they have to go on a sweep here, and that'll start in Michigan. Michigan, you've got I just posted about this. You've got a wonderful, wonderful primary. An array of progressive, principled candidates, Mallory McMorrow and Abdul El Sayed. Both would turn out Democrats fine. Both would win over independent voters. Both could turn out a working class / suburban coalition to beat Republican politics. And then Chuck Schumer and establishment Democrats have to ruin it by throwing Haley Stevens, the U.S. representative, the AIPAC sellout, the AIPAC ghoul, as I like to call her, who has really negative charisma somehow, which you wouldn't think is possible, but she literally every word that she speaks, less and less people support her, which is honestly difficult to do, you know. So she should, if she wants to win, she should just stop talking, quite frankly. You'd have such a wonderful primary between El Sayed and McMorrow. Stevens has to ruin it. If Stevens is the nominee, this is Republicans' race. This is the Republicans' race to lose. Um, Whoever's the nominee, it'll be a close fight. But I think that if McMorrow or Abdul El Sayed, my personal pick, are the nominee, they are narrowly favored to win. You know, with the national environment, with all things considered in Michigan, Trump only won Michigan by 1.4%. That's not wide of a margin at all. That's not like the 5-point margin in Arizona. That's only 1.4%. That's easily over, that's easily something Democrats could overcome in 2026. Not Haley Stevens though. I'm quitting politics if Haley Stevens is the nominee. I'm done. You've got what else for the Democrats? You've got Georgia, you've got North Carolina. Georgia, you've got John Ossoff. He's the incumbent Democrat, very popular, and you don't really see a strong Republican fielded in the race. Brian Kemp is not running. That is absolutely huge, huge for the Democrats there in that race. John Ossoff has the incumbency factor. You've got little known U.S. reps running, right? Buddy Carter, Mike Collins. You've got Derek Dooley, some football coach. He's running an extremely incompetent campaign. Very interesting to see. And then North Carolina, of course, Democrats, to the credit of Chuck Schumer on this one, he was able to field Roy Cooper, the former popular governor of North Carolina, the Democrat, to run. And then Trump drafted this nobody, Michael Whatley from the RNC, who has, get this, a 13% name recognition rate in North Carolina. In the state, Trump won by 3.2. Cooper's popularity, the low name recognition for Michael Whatley, this is Democrats' race to lose there, meaning they are favored to win. Then you have two more. Democrats could make a run and win majority, but no, they won't. It will be Republicans with majority. I think that in Alaska, it's undeniable right now. If Mary Peltola were to announce her candidacy, this would be a tight race. Both parties would invest in this race. But it's hard to say that she would be favored to win. Trump won it by 13 in 24. He won it by 10 in 20. He won it by 15 in 16 in 2016. Simply put, this is a very Republican state, and this is hugely important to remember in 2026. Mary Peltola will not be running against Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin was an enormously weak candidate. She'll be running against Dan Sullivan, not some electoral a juggernaut, but a normal person, not Sarah Palin. And then you have Texas, which for the first time in my Senate forecast gets down to lean for the Republicans, and this trend will probably continue. Why? Because we have James Tallarico running in the state of Texas. James Tallarico, the state rep from Austin, not the map I want, the pastor from Austin. He is running in the Democratic primary against, of all people, Ken Paxton, the far-right attorney general, who is looking like he is going to primary the incumbent Republican, John Cornyn, who has proven to be electorally strong. In 2020, John Cornyn won by 9.6 in Texas on the same ballot where Trump won by 5.6. He outperformed Trump by 4%, but in poll after poll after poll, Ken Paxton is beating John Cornyn. Keep in mind, Ken Paxton is involved with scandal after scandal after scandal, a hugely weak candidate, someone that the Democrats, maybe only James Tallarico really, has the ability to beat. We don't have any Paxton versus Tallarico polls yet, but don't be surprised if I have Texas still blue at some point in my prediction. So here it is. Here's the map, 51 to 49. Democrats make it a lot closer in the Senate. If Republicans just have one dissenter, then it becomes a tie. If they have two dissenters, then Democrats win that vote. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe down below. That helps out a lot and costs nothing to you. Drop a like as well. Helps out in the algorithm a lot. And I'll see you all later.